Lesson 6. Now, we've done the big reveal. We've talked about giants and cryptids and bloodlines, Atlanteans, the Cronides, the Titans. I've shown you that they are just recycling the story of ancient mythology, and your soul is probably recycled as well. During the period of 800 to 1300 AD, something happened in the Americas. There was a medieval warm period, and an outbreak of cannibalism occurred all over the Americas, as proven out by Dr. Christy Turner. There were some environmental changes that caused droughts pretty badly in the southwest of America, and extensive warfare occurred. During that same time period, Europe was allegedly experiencing its dark ages, and it was invaded by the Muslims, and the Inquisition followed. It set Europe back. The Black Death occurred. Eventually, the Renaissance became a significant movement and brought the people out of this dark age period. Interestingly enough, a motte and bailey from the Bayeux Tapestry out of Europe shows Europeans building mounds. Thus, it's a pretty good indicator that there may have been some Europeans going to the Americas building mounds as well, rather than just Siberians coming up with the idea on their own. However, there is not enough DNA proof to show this yet. Again, Plato said that Atlantis was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and it helped with travel from Europe, or the Old World, over that water area, over to other land, which I would assume was the Americas. There are some traditions that there were 3 destructions of this land going back to Edgar Cayce, and it had to do with misuse of technology. Perhaps he may be right, we don't know, but it is cited that there was a destruction 50,000 years ago, and then about 24,000 years ago, with the final destruction and sinking 12,000 years ago. Again, the final destruction of Atlantis fits perfectly with the timeline of the Cronides. Also in the ancient classical writings, the description of the Amazons and the Gorgons is given by Diodorus Siculus. The Amazons were a force to be reckoned with, and they wiped out most of the Gorgons. They also traveled. Eventually, the Amazon women were absorbed into the Scythians and Europeans. After the fall of Troy, the Trojan prince Aeneas left and went to Italy. And one of his descendants, King Brutus, was kicked out due to some bad behavior, and he ended up going to England with some people, spawning the Celtic British kings, and possibly a king line in the Nordic area about 2,000 years ago. This is the Brutus stone in England. Some of the things that don't fit into the story of the Cronides include these statues of goddesses, the Venus statues, going back 40,000 years ago. However, it coincides with the appearance of Cro-Magnon in Europe. So this is a mystery as to who this goddess worship was, or if this was even a goddess. Perhaps it was just something that represented childbirth. We don't know, but it shows an advancement in the ability to carve the art in the stone. So there are things that go back 40 to 50,000 years ago that don't really match or fit in with the Cronide timeline and the creation of civilization by these people. There just isn't enough information. And most of the classical literature only goes back to about 12,000 years ago, possibly a little bit further than that, but certainly there is nothing that I have found that is written about the time period of humans 35 to 40,000 years ago. So this is a mystery. Now, the patriarchy started with these Cronides, particularly Uranus, and then Cronus and to Zeus. And they spawned many different bloodlines. Their way of conquering the world was not only teaching civilization, but calculated murder and calculated breeding. The priests knew the secrets. They've kept this information hidden all along, and unfortunately it is tough to break this control over the world and to get this information out. But it's there, it's in esoteric libraries. It's taken me decades of my life and thousands of books that I've read to figure all of this out. So we cannot blame ourselves for the state that we're in to a certain degree. But at the same time, we do need to remove the power and let the whole world know what the mythological unification theory is about. The bloodlines of these gods, I believe, runs through us all. Specifically, if they did, in fact, create modern humans, then we're all related to these bloodlines of ancient Zeus and Demeter and whoever else participated. The royalty would be more of an offspring of these gods or goddesses than a human, so they feel they have more of the DNA of this, quote, master race, unquote. There are possible bloodlines of Prometheus existing. We don't know. The elites are followers of Cronus, elites. I've already showed you that. Elites, Elam, and that is probably why they have some of the most heinous behaviors that they have exhibited. They need to realign their moral code. Again, we see that these ancient Cronides used calculated murder and calculated breeding to take things over. The cryptids were created by the Cronides. Zeus turned Lycan into a werewolf, and his sons as well. We don't know what that means. We don't know if he changed his DNA to make him hairy all over. We just know it was done because this person served human meat in the form of a stew to the gods and was punished for it. There is also a story that the women who made it with the fallen angels were turned into sirens per the Book of Enoch, so that is the creation of mermaids and sirens. The hairy man, or the ancient satyr, was created by the gods and goddesses. Enkidu is one famous case. So that is the origin of what you call Bigfoot or Sasquatch today. Now, the Queen of Sheba, very important. She wanted to know all about God, and she was an intelligent woman, and she traveled to meet King Solomon, and we don't know exactly who he was, that's another story, to find out all about his knowledge and find God. And she was happy to do so. Now, in a sense, I feel I am the Queen of Sheba in spirit, because I will go to the ends of the earth to find the truth out about God and to tell you the truth about him. And I do believe Zeus is the father god, and he wanted us to live a better way, and that is why he introduced the agricultural cults to humanity. I don't believe he's alive. I believe he's passed on a long time ago, and he is spirit. Now let's wrap this up with some conclusions. Again, in my opinion, per my mythological unification theory, religion is nothing more than a recycle of the cults formed around an ancient family that I call the Cronides, and the Titans who oppose them. Their identities are hidden so that the priests have power over you. These ancient gods and gods appear to have been mammals because they breastfed and they ate and drank and had sexual relations, and they lived and died just like humans, but they had incredibly long lifespans and they were incredibly tall. But there is still a mystery about them. So, you need to remember your ancestors who go back to these gods and goddesses and their stories and how they wanted us to have a better world. Because the world was filled with horror back then. The earth was changing. There were human sacrifice, cannibalism, blood drinking, and just absolute chaos. One man, Zeus, and his children changed the world and got rid of as much of this as they could do and established their rules and their ways and their moral code. Unfortunately, their memory has purposely been removed, and I'd like to see that changed. I don't think this changes anything about your religious beliefs if you have a mainstream religious belief and a good moral code. I believe my information just gives you more information of who your God was and is, and that he wants you to have a good moral code and not do these heinous things that he had to deal with out in the actual public. They weren't hiding it during his time, and he had to go up against this and get rid of the problems and continue on his genetics. And he continued on his genetics through the human race. So that is the conclusion. If you'd like to learn more, I've written 20 books on the hidden human story. They're available online for purchase. I have a YouTube channel. I have an old blog. You may see ritajeanmoran.com for more information. I'm doing more research all the time, and I hope this helps you to have clarity in your mind as to how we got here and who our ancient gods and goddesses were and why things are the way they are. Certainly there are plenty of questions that I still have that I'm working on answering, but this is an introductory class, and I hope that you've learned quite a bit and now have interest to learn more. Thank you.